Could you outline the essential steps involved in handling lease expirations?
So lease expirations all have to do with your leases expiring for the property that you lease. And so as a CEO, that is when your right to be in the building has completed, is finished, and you have to move. And so you're guarding, at a minimum, your business from disruption. But the first place you start is with your lease contract to know if you have an option. And so if you have an option to stay, what is the option window where you can give written notice and use your option? So a window could be 6 to 9 months or 9 to 12 months in 80% of instances, maybe 90%. And so there are also details and options. So how is the fair market rent negotiated? Or is it pre-negotiated? And if you are going to negotiate it with your landlord, what happens if you guys can't agree and you want to do it the hard way? And so there's arbitration, and baseball arbitration is a mechanism for if there's a disagreement between landlord and tenant on what one will pay in their next extension upon lease expiration when you choose to stay. And so with baseball arbitration, it's super interesting. I haven't seen this anywhere else. You pick your number that you think is fair market value, and I pick mine. And so if you're the landlord and you think rent should be $2, and I'm the tenant and I think it should be $1, then we hire a third independent party, and they decide what's fair market. And whatever they decide, let's say they say it's $1.51, then you get $2, you win. If they decide it's $1.49, I get $1 and I win. And so it's not that they determine and then you all agree on it. It's another form of the mechanic prevailing party, where it is an incentive to play nice and to have reasonable expectations of what's fair, and to work like openly and honestly with the other side. And so that's an interesting mechanism that's usually buried deep in these lease options. So to know whether you have that or not before you think through what to do next is the first step. And from there, then you can think through, okay, if I don't have that, then I do this. If I do have this, then I do that.
That's really interesting. I had no idea about arbitration being involved in real estate, but is that a pretty common thing?
It's very uncommon that it's needed, but it's there and it does happen. So I've been able to avoid it, and that's great. But yeah, it's out there, and I've heard of instances of people dealing with it. And the place where baseball arbitration seems to be used the most is where there's room for ambiguity, right, and room for differing opinions. And most oftentimes that's in flex properties. So if you have a large manufacturing building, let's call it 150,000 feet, and it has 50,000 feet of office, or 60,000, or 75,000 feet of office, that's far different than a manufacturing building that has like a small office pod, and then the rest is just a gigantic warehouse. And so there, where you have a building that's 150,000 feet and 75,000 of it is office, as a landlord, you might be tempted to want to charge office rates or somewhere near office rates. And as a tenant, you are incentivized to want to look at it. It's zoned industrial. It's an industrial property, and industrial property with little office pods most oftentimes leases for less. So that's the space where ambiguity is highest. And now that office rents have come down and industrial rents have gone up, there's less opportunity for that ambiguity now.